Thank you for staying with us. Members of the National Peace Committee, General Abdulsalami Abubakar and Reverend Dr. Matthew Kukah, have expressed serious concern over the peace accord signed by the leadership of the 18 political parties and their presidential flag bearers. The duo expressed concern that the peace accord was under threat, noting that current political actors appeared not to have learnt any lesson from the past. The National Peace Committee members particularly expressed reservations over what they referred to as intemperate language, intimidation, and outright violence in the campaign fields. They say the aggressive and abusive language only diminishes the integrity, the integrity of the individuals, their candidates, and their parties. But joining us to discuss this is political analyst Gbola Oba. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good to see you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's take it back a little bit. I recall 2019 in Kogi State, the PDP governorship candidate at the time, Natasha Akpoti, I recall, they were to sign a peace accord at that time. And, all hell broke loose. We had people from nowhere, according to her, came and, just scattered everything. I think they couldn't really sign, or they signed, I don't know what happened, but that day at the peace accord signing, all hell broke loose, hoodlums scattered the whole thing. And that is not even, there are several cases where we've signed peace accord, yet we still see what is happening, happen with regards to the concerns being raised by members of the committee of the peace accord. And I'm wondering, what are we not getting right with regards to this peace accord that is seeming not to have that form of respect or regard from political parties adhering to it?
We live in a society where we have perfected the art of ritualism. We do things because those things must be done it must be done in a manner to just show you've done it. So you take the sacrament, and as you are taking the sacrament, you are sinning. The putting this thing in you, and you are looking at, you are visually fornicating because you are looking at a woman beside you. So I am not going to be sitting here and be deluding myself that because somebody has gone to sign a paper that he or she will be suddenly predisposed. Is that signature going to write off the loan he has gone to take? Is that signature... Why you guys? Why do you always want to make somebody make me feel like a comedian when I'm with you? I don't have a success.
What you just said was just sinking in.
Yes,
because
would that signature take away the fact that one of the most robust business opportunities in our society now, one of the most vibrant commercial opportunities in our society now is to hold political office? So the element of desperation naturally comes into this. It is on the side of the players. On the side of the supporters, you have people who are largely driven by poverty. You have people who are functionally illiterate and largely lack self-esteem. Look at the way an average politician is even engaged with in our public sphere. You will feel ashamed. If you're a very thoughtful human being, you feel ashamed that you are a citizen of the country. Hey, Baba, you not even being a politician, just looking this dapper, or coming out in this kind of sartorial gear, somebody with a cap, they just presume you're a politician, and you know what? The best they could do to extract money from you is to demean themselves, self-deprecate themselves by dramatizing. So I'm sitting there thinking, those ones, in order to impress the person that they think they can get money from, could you imagine, even when he or she has not sent them, Could you imagine the level of disrespect for the rule of law and disrespect for fellow human beings they can go to with a view to impress? So sitting here now, we have built a society, and it's not peculiar to Nigeria, even in the best of societies. We have seen what liberal democracy has turned to across the world. You want to go to the US, we used to have a very, but look at what has happened in the US in the last cycles of elections. Look at what has happened even in places like very urbane, sedate Germany. Liberal democracy, because of the largely negative role of the echo chambers that modern technologies, especially smartphone, inspiring even the best of liberal democracies where the culture of poverty is not as entrenched as it is with us, and where illiteracy is not as inimical to the human self-esteem as it is here. We still have acts powered by some sentiments. So I'm sitting here thinking, this place I call business, may God let us catch up with it. But we will be patient because it's going to take a while.
All right. The idea, the concept or the motive of the peace accord is to, from what we see, is meant to ensure that everybody, tries to be tolerant with the other person. Summary of it. But what should it mean? What place should the peace accord occupy in the process, in the build-up to election, more than just the issue of a piece of a paper?
Ordinarily, we need the moral pulpit in all human endeavors, not only in politics, in basic economics, in the area of morality. You need the moral pulpit to serve as the machinery through which moral suasion could be articulated to make the man, a human being, do right. We need it. So I can't sit here and say the 4-year cycle life of the peace committee, I can't sit here and say it's totally superfluous. It's totally, unnecessary. But in so much as we need that, we must, as leaders, people like you, myself, and people in official positions of state, but most times, many of us who are not in official position of state, we need, as leaders, to find a way of bringing about the dignification of the Nigerian persona. We don't have a society when an average human being thinks less of himself or herself, he or she will be predisposed to doing something. Look, I was driving yesterday, passing underneath the Independence Tunnel in Maryland, and a lady in her Adamic clothing was lying literally, and she was, I was even not sure if she was dead, but at some point I think I noticed movement, and I was telling myself, Gbola, you couldn't even wait, because even if you had waited, where would you take her to? And I was, until I drove to my office, and I was thinking, Gbola, that is the common denominator of your humanity in this society. Look, 7 kilometers away from that road, on about 2 occasions, negotiating the ramp to come to this place from Ojota, I've been twice attacked by boys who would pretend. On one occasion, I had to come out and flex my mushy oral and mental muscle. Because I just picked a bottle of Baileys in my car. You know, I just picked it. And you know, and that order this thing immediately one of the boys said, Baba Monkpao, they had broken my windscreen. I had to spend about 50-something thousand naira to change it. That is the common element. My own children may be in America, my own children may be in the United Kingdom, but the common element of my humanity is defined for me by what I see and the people I obnob with. If I don't know that, then something is fundamentally wrong with me. Until we bring about, even in our commercial endeavors, in all the things we do, until we bring about the dignification of the Nigerian persona. What is peace accord? Look, if Iyeleja had not invested in me and I was stuck in Mushin, you think I would not have been killing human beings and feel it's normal because it's all my survivor?
We still have our guest in the studio, Gbola Oba, talking to us with regards to the peace accord signed and the concerns being raised by the committee. And before we went on the break, Gbola, we were speaking about the dignification of the Nigerian persona, how critical and crucial it is for we to see that impact of this peace accord being signed. And I'm wondering, when we're talking about this dignification, how do we address it? Where do we even start from? Where do we begin? We have come so far with regards to what it is that we find ourselves now.
The first thing I have to say at this juncture is that it does not belong to our public officers alone, elected or bureaucratic public officers alone, to do it. An average Nigerian middle-class person must know that the wealth that grows sustainably is the wealth that edifies humanity. Until we make a formal and informal educational system to know that whatever you can do to alleviate the creative capacity of a human being. You don't have to believe in God to be successful. Because if you use the parameters of the religions that we practice in Nigeria, people in China should be poor. People in India should be poor. But we can see now that, whilst we are banging that God within the context of the scriptures in our hand, Richie Sunak is now the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It wasn't even in the political space when some of us were running elective offices in the United Kingdom. So I'm sitting here now that until we come to the realization, my wife wanted to leave home to go catch a flight to this presidential this thing that they're doing. They're flying to Ilorin. And she said, they said, I must be leaving my phones at home now. And I said, why? I said, obviously, when you are going to a rally, you should know that you must leave valuable items. Not only your phones, but the things that you would feel pained. Because majority of those that you people will pull to the rally anyway are people who don't have much doing. That is why they have the time to come to the rally. And you can't then come back from a rally and tell me that your phone has been pilfered. I will look at your Moshobadu. You understand? Those are the kind of people that, because if you don't let the camera see of human heads, you don't feel the rally has been successful. But let us be very honest with ourselves. Can you leave this job now and go and join one rally and be part of the hundreds of thousands that they usually call millions? Look, the truth is that whichever way we look at it, even within the context of the selfish objectives we want to achieve, we must find strategies that will elevate and dignify the human beings around us and in our ecosystem. Until we do that, peace accord, safety, security. Do you know that this economy, the Lagos economy, is such a powerful economy, not only in Nigeria, but in the sub-region, because you only need to go to the level of some of these boys riding Okada or Marua and talk to them. Some of them, when they are really relaxed with you, you will know they come from as far as Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad, Central African Republic. And they flock to Lagos because they see opportunities. Just like when Yeleja was begging me to stay in higher institution in Nigeria, I was telling Yeleja that I was ready to go to Europe and they were going to do nothing. And she was crying, but she had to go and take a susu and I had to go. I was chasing the golden fleece. How can I tell somebody not to come to Lagos? And yet when they come to Lagos, because we don't also enforce laws well, not so much the problem of those who are in positions of power alone, but even the culturalization. Somebody comes in, because I have a church, I just say I'm providing a place, I don't know where it's coming from, I don't know his antecedents, I don't know whether I just committed murder in Akwa Ibom, but once he comes to Lagos and he says, hallelujah and whatever, I just put him at the gate in the church, he rises, and we have so loose. And this is we are living in the age of biometrics. We are living in the age of artificial intelligence, where everything I do is indeed computerized. How was the guy who killed his girlfriend in South Africa, how was he convicted? It was the movement of the mobile phone in his hand, because the chip in everything we carry, the chip now maps your digital footprint. And yet we live like, you know what, we're still in antediluvian. About 300 years ago, where we don't keep records, we don't bother about records. How could it be Lagos-Ibadan Express Road that kidnappers will be operating?
Which is the busiest road so far.
And you have youngsters. I know this. I've visited the facility. You have youngsters in Ibadan teaching people drone technology. Any of your camera crew now, if they go out, they will go out with an average drone. Because when we used to be in broadcasting, we never had that. And yet, in Lagos-Ibadan Express Road, they took Abuja-Kaduna Road from us. They are now the F1 and we'll be blowing grammar. We are not.
But that's the thing. The issue there is we all look up to the political leaders, the president, the governor, Senate, National Assembly, and all of that to champion a cause, change the policy, change this and change that, enforce this, enforce that. You made a point saying that it is not just them alone, because we are first Nigerians. We're from a family first. We are who we are first before we even qualify to contest for any office and then we occupy any position. So, but at that level, it seems it becomes challenging now how to start that, because that's the very fundamental issue that she raised earlier that even gives birth to the issue of the peace accord. Because if some things are in place, the dignification of the human persona that you talked about, if we have it in place and everybody respects the other person, maybe we may not even have the need for the issue of signing peace accord. So where do we start from in ensuring that we achieve that dignification of the human persona that has eluded us so much that we've seen life now as as norm? It's a norm. Like you painted a picture of the lady who was lying down there at the Independence Tunnel. Lying down. The point is a norm where, it's your first time in Lagos. If you complain, is it your first time of seeing things like that? So where do we start from? Is it the family unit, or the cultural unit, or the religious unit, or the village square unit, or where? Where do we start from? What do we do?
Fantastic question. And you know what I usually respond to that? Some of us are either first generation, second generation, or third generation. Some, maybe, let me give a typical example. From 1885, the first member of Femi Fani-Kayode's, I don't know him, I'm not close to him. I have a distance to read history. The first member of his family graduated from Oxford University in 1885. His grandfather graduated from Cambridge in 1925. Some of us are fortunate that since Western education has come into our line, my mother was a stark illiterate. But she would tell me, Adisa, education. And you know what? Even within the context of the environment, nature and nurture, they will tell you, even within the context of the very abrasive nurture, the impact of education still pulled somebody up. Now, we're doing it well enough. About 3-4 years ago, some nurses called me from the United Kingdom. They said they wanted to come give to local communities in Nigeria. I said, I'll take you to Mushin, where I was born. And they followed me. You know, they did all this, what they do, all this. And when I was driving off, I drove past Akala and whatever, and I could see that some of the houses that I used to go play with people, they've been turned to private primary schools. It still tells you the importance of education amongst us. But as some are doing that within their family, we having families that don't even know the importance. It may not be in Lagos. It may be in some rural areas of... But until some of us who have seen how effective quality education, skills empowerment, enterprise empowerment, how they transform not only the human beings, but also nurture value creators in society, until we find a way of pushing the envelope to democratize it at large in our society. Peace accord or no peace accord, Gbola Oba will not be safe. When there are youngsters on Ojota, I will be driving out of here inevitably, Abi. I'll be driving to my office somewhere in Ilupeju, until there are no more youngsters on Ojota chasing a vehicular horse, a danfo, looking that the only thing they could do would be to carry the load at the back of that danfo as a form of subsistence. I will be very delusional to think I'm safe. That is why some of us still nurture the weary side. Because if I want to die, if you're going to kill me anyway, I was kidnapped once in Delta. I went with my partner, Kunle to consult for the Delta State government, the skills empowerment. We do it well enough. And you see, they were taking us from one technical college in Sapele to another technical college in Ueli. When we got to, the name of the town is Adagbasa. And they kidnapped us. You know, when they took me to the distance, I sacked myself. I gave them nickname. I gave myself nickname. And I was telling them, every job has an occupational hazard. The occupational hazard of what you are doing is that, look, the gun can only kill me. But less than 3 hours after, we were hearing loud guns. And I was telling them, because I had taken over them psychologically, and I was telling them, what I was telling you, you will not die in my presence. You better run into this thing, because that's a superior fire. I thought it was another group coming to kidnap me from them.
I'm sorry I'm laughing over this, but it's
that's
really
what
a serious
of the peace
issue.
accord we all signed. The peace accord, at the end of the day, the mighty oak tree in the forest, at the end of the day, the shrubs underneath it defines the quality. And sometimes when we do things, and I'll just say, Gbola, you know what? We need it for the pictures. We need it for the cameras. But you know what? In functional societies, it's not peculiar to Nigeria. We see that degeneracy in some Western societies. You go to some places in America too, you see the quality of humanity. And that we are replicating the wrongs of America, what America has done in the last 70 years. After the Second World War, creating gated communities where you will see sanity. I'm not a betting man, but I can put my last bottom kobo that the two of you probably live in gated communities.
Well, you wouldn't know
You
that.
wouldn't know that.
You know what? All I have to do, because you know what? You can't live in the open market environment. And the irony is that in our gated communities, we define sanity for ourselves. But we inevitably still have to drive.
Absolutely.
Through the whole society.
So
you know.
invariably, are you saying that there is no need for us to have a peace accord?
I will not say that there is no need for a preacher man to stand on the pulpit either every Sunday or every Friday to preach to the congregation. Because you know what? As seemingly mundane as it is, the word's been, it is still the word that in the last 2,000 years plus have sustained, using Christianity just as an example, or 1,500 years of Islam. It has just been the word received, from divinely received, that people speak to themselves, that has sustained those. So I'm sitting there, that I will not say the peace accords are not important. I will not say the preachment opportunities are not important. But some of us who have seen how effective a form of creativity that dignifies humanity will not only profit you after profiting society, but we even give you sustainable source of life. We have to be also preaching it to ourselves, beyond those who are in politics. I'm not excusing them. I lambast them enough, but I also think it is about time I spoke to the Gbola Oba in Gbola Oba and the Gbola Oba in those who are watching. Because who do I need to do that? You and I and those who are watching. We need to change how we define opportunities. Because opportunities are largely crises better managed by people who are creative, who are value innovators, and people who are ready. If you think this is crisis, and in the midst of this dust, I can gather sand to build. That's life. Life we always present. And especially in an age where we live in now, climate change, everything, what used to be normal, this thing in the 70s, suddenly now is shrinking. If I told anybody watching this program this morning that Lake Chad has shrunken from when I was in primary school in the 70s to date, Lake Chad has shrunken by more than 80%. And the communities around Lake Chad will still need water. They will still need to fish. Yes. They will still need this thing. Why would that not inevitably cause conflict? And yet some of us who know about this, who ordinarily should have been mentoring those societies, that, you know what, we cannot only be living by fishing alone. No, that, look at what has happened in the Niger Delta. The ecological madness that we largely, at least in Lake Chad, nature largely shrunk the lake. In the Niger Delta, failure of governance from the village to the local, to the state, to the federal. Failure of governance. And because many of us were profiting from it, or we thought we could profit from it, because if they sack this GMD and they put another GMD, pardon me. So we can keep on signing peace accord. But you see, every opportunity that you give to some of us, who have seen beyond, look, if I eat more than 2,000 naira today, if more than 2,000 naira food practically goes into this belly today, tomorrow I will have to walk extra kilometer. The poor walk very far to be able to eat. And the rich walk very far to burn the fat. We must be.
What an irony.
We must be. I tell myself, I just chill. At this age, you need to be working for legacy. And it's not about grabbing.
Absolutely.
You get to an age in time, you should be comfortable with where you are. Not so much because you don't have the drive, but you now use the drive for the good of society. Because, look, I tell my wife secretly this. There is no heaven. The only heaven there is the value that you have added to humanity, and when you are gone, the good or the ill they say about you. Simple. Peace accord.
All right. Well, that's secret. You tell your wife. I believe the meaning is very deep, not just the literal someone feeling or saying there is no heaven, but the meaning is really deep, and someone has to sit and meditate over it to get the
I have crack reporters like you as friends. I've never seen anybody reporting from heaven. So I know, I read the Bible and the Quran is here. We are better.
It's better to just leave it.
No, of course. That's I didn't want to go there now.
Says, when they speculated is there was a time his death was rumored. I said, you know what, I'm not in a hurry to go to heaven. Okay. I don't know the place. This place that I know, let me stay. Why? Thank you very much for this.
Now, let's talk briefly about the social media. There's a contradiction around social media. Now, social media has become part of our lives now. We have seen the impact or the effect or the influence of it on campaigns, on mass rallies, on demonstrations, riots, and things like that. Social media, as it is right now, has come to stay as part of our lives. It is assumed that with social media, you have access to knowledge, you have access to all sorts of information around the world, which should equip anyone to become a better and a refined person. Yet, social media is still a tool. In fact, the way it is being used in some quarters has become a very strong tool for negativity, which creates some kind of contradiction. Because if knowledge has increased, then we should all know the difference between what is good and what is bad. Now, how do we reconcile some of these contradictions that we should see it from the benefit of how to use, like somebody created an analogy that if you see a knife in the hands of a housewife in the kitchen, it's a wonderful tool that you look forward to what she's going to use the knife for. But if you see the same knife in the hands of a madman, it means something else that everyone is going to run away from. So how do we begin to look at social media from that perspective that we all benefit from as a society?
The good of social media as it is that it has shrunken the world we used to know. Before, when I would want to call anybody, before I emigrated, when I would want to call anybody, I would have to look for a Molue or a Danfo in Mushin and pay fare to Marina to go to Nitel building. And when you get to Nitel building, you would pay. Yeah. You would pay somebody, you will wait on the queue, and they will tell you, go to cubicle number 9. Cubicle number 9. You will ring the person in America or London. If they picked, you know, you will just be praying that it was not going to be answer phone that will pick it. If they picked, you know, and you will come back again to Mushin. But you know what? On this phone now, I could just call somebody, not only hear his or her voice, see the picture of the person. But as I'm seeing the picture of the person too, because I'm a human being and you don't know the chemistry between me and that person, we may say, you know, let me see this, let me see this. Before you know it, he or she, not knowing the motive of the let me see this, recording it, and somebody, a speaker of a legislative chamber in South Africa, just got herself into a mess. And you know what? She got herself into that mess, and a whole set of people, they just say Nigerians, because she was actually, at that point, she was reportedly doing that video chat with a Nigerian boyfriend. And now in South Africa, you know, for the last 1 week, Nigerian men are very dangerous men, you know? Yeah. So we must, as an individual, we must have some degree of circumspection that we tell ourselves on the usage of this wonderful asset. And what do I tell myself? Gbola, don't get too intellectually and emotionally clobbered by the echo chamber that you belong to. In fact, in the West now, the reason why there is a war in Ukraine as we speak, why Russia has attacked Ukraine, is they perceive that the degeneracy that social media has caused in the West, especially America, you could do anything and get away with it. But they never knew that within the beauty of democracy, of human society, especially where the human persona is dignified, is that sometimes they can recalibrate. So I'm sitting here now thinking, Gbola, always make sure that you don't belong to any echo chamber where a lie is sold against, too much against a particular person, even when the facts, because facts are not true, so facts are different from truth.
Yeah.
And people, social media will help people to lay the facts, but the objective of the person painting the picture you don't know.
Yes.
You become a gullible this thing to go and be hounding other human beings. So I'm sitting here now thinking too, that you know what? I don't forward anything except it's a classic comedy that I know will just make us laugh. And if you send anything to me, or except it's something that I generated myself, and I know my motive for generating it. But to forward something to me, that is
amazing.
All right. So much has been said, but we have to leave the conversation here now. We must thank you, political analyst Gbola Oba.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You
Always
so
a
much.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Husband of many wives. Because I know. So that because sometimes they change.
You know, the point there is, as Africans, we are father of so many communities. You know, so it's all right.
Yes, I agree.
Well,
Thank you. Always a pleasure.